if you are the kind of learner who wants to really understand the hidden mechanics of global business, not just those surface-level success stories we always hear about.
Right, the polished PR versions.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the mission of this deep dive is to explore the unseen traps of international expansion. And today's insights, they come directly from the writings of Rory Gagan, director of Redbox Direct.
Yeah, and we are going to examine this massive, quiet flaw in how most companies handle global growth. It's a flaw that, honestly, it fundamentally undermines their long-term success.
It really does. And it's a story that plays out, every single day in boardrooms all over the world.
Right.
A company builds this phenomenal domestic business.
Right, they get real market traction.
Yeah, a solid product, a loyal customer base, and then the inbound inquiries start rolling in from overseas.
Which is exciting. I mean, the board sees the opportunity. Investors want to see global scale.
Oh, the pressure mounts so fast to establish an international footprint.
Yeah.
And the immediate instinct is to look for, the most sensible, risk-free path to capture that new revenue.
The oldest play in the book.
Right, finding a good local partner. It seems like the undisputed logical move. You bring in a traditional distributor because, well, they already speak the language.
They understand the cultural nuances.
Exactly. They know exactly how business gets done in that specific region. They have the customer lists, the warehouses, the local reputation.
In theory, it's perfect. You get to grow your brand globally without, the overwhelming capital expenditure.
Or the legal headaches.
Right. Or the operational distraction of trying to build a local subsidiary completely from scratch.
So the appeal is undeniable. You are essentially buying a turnkey solution for regional growth.
But the reality on the ground, it plays out very differently than the theory on the whiteboard.
It always does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Manufacturers believe they're purchasing market access and operational convenience. But what they're actually buying into is opacity.
Opacity, wow.
Yeah, they are paying a permanent and often irreversible price for that initial convenience.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I'm thinking a modern executive listening to this, they would probably point to their robust reporting structures.
Oh, absolutely.
They'd look at their mandatory quarterly video calls, their monthly pipeline reports, their, automated sales forecasts.
And they would argue they have complete visibility into their foreign markets.
Right, they see the numbers moving, product shipping, revenue arriving.
But seeing numbers on a page, that is just the comfortable illusion of visibility.
Comfortable illusion.
Exactly. Because it feels validating when the revenue graph is trending upward. But the foundational problem reveals itself when the momentum stalls.
Like when a major deal falls through.
Right. A highly anticipated deal collapses, or a flagship product launch in a new territory just completely flatlines. The manufacturer asks for answers.
And the answers they get are always remarkably vague.
Very vague.
Right. A lost deal is just a timing issue or intense local pricing pressure.
Or the distributor might blame shifting market conditions.
Yeah, or a cultural preference for domestic suppliers. It's always something outside their control.
And think about it. The manufacturer is sitting in an office thousands of miles away. The distributor is the one physically navigating the terrain.
Speaking the native language.
Meeting these buyers face to face. That geographical and cultural distance, it makes it nearly impossible for the manufacturer to meaningfully challenge the distributor's narrative.
I see. So the information they receive is carefully calibrated.
Highly calibrated. It's detailed enough to sound entirely credible, but vague enough to prevent any direct intervention.
Okay, that makes me think of an analogy.
Oh, let's hear it.
Imagine hiring a remote fitness coach, right? Like someone who lives on another continent. You pay them to manage your health.
Okay, I'm with you.
And at the end of the month, they send you this beautifully formatted, color-coded spreadsheet indicating you completed 50 perfect push-ups every single morning.
Sounds great on paper.
Right. But what that polished summary completely filters out is the reality of the workout. It doesn't mention that you skipped leg day for 3 weeks straight, or that your form on those push-ups was so terrible, you were on the verge of a shoulder injury.
Exactly. You receive a report, but because you aren't in the gym with them, you just cannot verify the ground truth.
You can't look at your local distributor and ask if they simply, lacked persuasive energy during a critical pitch in Munich.
Or if they completely failed to follow up with a massive lead in Madrid.
What's fascinating here is that this opacity isn't born from malice, right?
No, not at all. The distributor isn't sitting in a dark room plotting to deceive the manufacturer. This dynamic is just a structural feature of the traditional distributor model.
It's the highly rational outcome of completely misaligned incentives.
Exactly. We have to view this through the lens of leverage, because information is the ultimate currency in sales.
Right, knowing the specific names of the end users.
Understanding the internal decision-making hierarchy of a target company,
Grasping the internal politics of the buyer.
all of that constitutes leverage. And in a traditional reseller model, the distributor holds every single ounce of that leverage.
And giving that leverage back to the manufacturer, well, that would mean deliberately weakening their own negotiating position.
Which no rational business would do. There is a brutal irony built into this dynamic. For a traditional distributor, sharing too much accurate information is a profound business risk.
Wow, a business risk.
Put yourself in their shoes for a moment. Imagine they execute the strategy flawlessly, they grow the territory, build incredible, sticky relationships with key buyers.
And then they share all of that raw, unfiltered customer data with the manufacturer.
Right. What did they just do?
They have essentially trained their own replacement.
Exactly. If the manufacturer suddenly possesses all the relationships, all the data, all the market nuance,
The logical next step for the board is to bypass the distributor entirely.
cut out the middleman.
Recapture that margin.
So success becomes a structural threat to the distributor's survival.
That is wild.
Consequently, the data sent back to headquarters, it's not falsified, but it is heavily, meticulously curated.
They share the highlight reel.
Yes, they spotlight the closed deals while keeping the friction points, the specific customer objections, the nuanced market feedback completely in the dark.
The customer relationship remains fiercely intermediated.
And the manufacturer is kept one step removed from the market they are actually funding.
So they confuse this structural opacity with operational stability.
That is the trap. They interpret the absence of bad news as a sign of a thriving partnership.
And they mistake the longevity of the distributor contract for genuine market penetration.
They believe they are developing a market, when in reality they are outsourcing their own market development to a third party whose main priority is self-preservation.
Which brings us to the actual damage. Because the curation of data might protect the distributor, but it inflicts this slow bleed on the manufacturer.
And these are the hidden costs of international expansion. They are particularly dangerous because they do not show up on a standard monthly balance sheet.
No, they accumulate silently over years.
Decades even.
And the most glaring of those hidden costs has to be the total loss of customer ownership. Like the source material highlights this staggering reality.
Oh, this part blew my mind.
Right. After years of operating in a foreign market, many manufacturers still cannot actually name their key customers without asking their distributor for permission to access that list.
It is an astounding vulnerability. A manufacturer might have thousands of units deployed across European factory floors.
Yeah.
Yet they have absolutely no idea who is actually operating their machinery day to day.
They don't know the names of the engineers who love the product.
They don't know the procurement officers who hold the real influence over purchasing decisions.
And perhaps most crucially, they have no visibility into who is quietly blocking their product internally in favor of a local competitor.
You are operating entirely blind to the human element of your own sales pipeline.
And if you don't know who champions your product, you cannot leverage their enthusiasm to win adjacent accounts.
Which extends directly into the next hidden cost, which is pricing erosion.
Pricing erosion, yes.
When a manufacturer loses visibility into the transaction layer, they lose control over their own market positioning. Pricing erosion is a silent killer of premium brands.
Because a local partner might offer a steep discount for a highly strategic reason, right? Like maybe to unseat an entrenched competitor at a marquee account.
Sure, and that is a justifiable business decision. However, in an opaque structure, distributors frequently discount simply out of habit.
Or to just accelerate a deal to hit a quick quarterly quota.
Exactly. And without direct visibility into the logic behind every transaction, a manufacturer might discover 5 years down the line that the product they engineered to be a premium, top-tier solution
has been quietly repositioned by the local market as the price-sensitive budget option.
Reversing that perception is nearly impossible. Once a market believes your product is a commodity, raising prices back to a premium tier requires a monumental marketing effort.
And this fragmentation of the brand, it doesn't stop at pricing. It bleeds into inconsistent messaging, too.
A global brand is only as strong as its consistency. If every distributor across 20 different countries is telling their own, localized, curated version of your story,
the brand identity shatters. I mean, a distributor might overpromise on upcoming features just to get a quick signature.
Or completely misrepresent the technical support capabilities of the manufacturer. The world's perception of the company fractures.
The manufacturer literally no longer controls their own narrative.
And that cumulative loss of control sets the stage for the ultimate consequence of this traditional structure.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Think about the concept of institutional memory.
Yeah, institutional memory is huge.
Imagine a manufacturer sustains a 10-year relationship with a distributor in a highly complex market like Japan or Germany.
That represents a decade of intricate conversations.
Navigating local regulations, handling highly specific technical objections, figuring out exactly what that specific market requires to thrive.
And then the relationship ends. Maybe the distributor gets acquired by a larger conglomerate.
Or the two parties simply decide to part ways.
When that termination clause is triggered, every single ounce of that acquired knowledge walks out the door.
It just vanishes overnight.
The manufacturer is suddenly forced to start at absolute zero in a market they supposedly served for 10 years.
They have to rebuild the relationship map from scratch. They have to relearn the regulatory hurdles.
You have been funding a decade of highly specialized education for your distributor, and when graduation day comes...
You don't get to keep any of the notes.
Exactly. You are effectively a startup again in a mature territory.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, consider how this impacts executive leadership. C-suite leaders are sitting in boardrooms making massive, multi-million-dollar strategic decisions.
Regarding market sizing, product roadmaps, pricing strategy, capital investments.
And they are basing all of those critical decisions on secondhand, heavily sanitized inputs.
The data they are reviewing feels real because it is beautifully graphed and presented in quarterly decks.
But it is never raw.
The source delivers an absolute gut punch, quote, summarizing this entire dynamic. If you don't own the data, you don't own the market.
Wow. If you don't own the data, you don't own the market. It is a profound, unavoidable truth.
It really is.
But wait, if the costs are genuinely this devastating,
Yeah.
I mean, losing customer ownership, eroding pricing power, fragmenting the global brand, and risking the entirety of your institutional memory, why on earth do intelligent, data-driven manufacturers continue to accept these terms?
It's a great question.
Why do they keep signing traditional distributor agreements year after year?
They continue to sign those agreements because they buy into a very persistent, very comforting myth. It is the myth that the local partner knows best.
Okay, let me challenge that for a moment. Doesn't the local partner actually know best?
Well,
We established at the very beginning of this deep dive that language and cultural fluency are absolutely critical for international business.
they are.
A company headquartered in Chicago cannot simply parachute a sales team into Tokyo and expect them to navigate the cultural nuances of corporate procurement.
Language and cultural fluency are absolutely non-negotiable. Knowing the local terrain matters immensely,
Right.
but the fundamental confusion occurs when manufacturers equate knowing the local terrain with owning the strategic direction of the business.
Wow.
Manufacturers trick themselves into believing they are merely outsourcing the execution of their sales strategy.
They think they're saying, here is our playbook, go run these plays in your language.
But because of the structural opacity we just explored, they aren't just outsourcing execution, they are outsourcing their executive judgment.
By handing over the keys to a highly curated black box, the manufacturer is letting a third party decide which customers actually matter,
The distributor decides which product application should be prioritized,
which local competitors are worth worrying about.
and which massive opportunities should be completely ignored simply because they require too much effort to close.
It is a total abdication of leadership, disguised as delegation.
It really is. And this raises an important question. One, manufacturers rarely have the courage to ask themselves, are we building a market or are we simply renting one?
Renting a market.
If a company's entire global growth trajectory depends on a third party whose incentives are fundamentally misaligned with long-term brand building.
Then that global footprint is incredibly fragile.
Exactly.
Let me play devil's advocate for the listener who is heavily invested in modern sales operations. An executive listening to this might think, well, this structural opacity might have been an unsolvable problem 20 years ago.
Sure.
But today, we have incredible technology. We can mandate that our international partners use our shared CRM system.
Right, the tech solution.
We can set up real-time dashboards tracking every email and call. We can enforce rigorous KPIs. Doesn't enterprise software solve the visibility problem?
It is the most common counterargument in modern business. But the source material addresses this directly. The answer is a definitive no. Tools do not fix ownership problems.
Right.
Forcing a distributor to log into a shared CRM might make the boardroom feel better, but data captured by a distributor is still heavily curated data.
If you do not control the individual inputting the data, that multi-million-dollar CRM is just a more expensive, more polished black box.
Returning to your fitness coach analogy, the new tracking app you force them to use might look gorgeous. The interactive graphs might update in real time.
But if the remote coach is still the one manually entering the rep counts, you remain entirely blind to whether your form was actually correct.
Reporting activity is not the same thing as gaining real market insight.
Tracking how many phone calls were made or how many automated emails were opened tells you nothing about the shifting sentiment of the key decision makers.
The core issue here is a structural flaw regarding who legally and practically owns the relationship. You cannot patch a structural flaw with a software band-aid.
Okay, so if software cannot fix the opacity, and the traditional distributor model essentially forces a company to rent a market while wearing a blindfold, what is the actual alternative? How does a manufacturer achieve aggressive international growth without handing over their power and their raw data?
Finding the alternative requires a fundamental shift in thinking. The manufacturer must reframe the initial goal.
Reframing the goal.
Instead of walking into a new country and asking, how do we sell our product here?
Which inevitably leads right back to hiring a traditional distributor.
Right. They need to ask a much more strategic question. They need to ask, who owns the customer relationship, the brand voice, and the market intelligence?
Who owns it?
Precisely that. The solution proposed is the transparent local presence model.
Transparent local presence.
This model rejects the false binary choice that companies usually face. Historically, you either spent millions of dollars and years of legal headaches to open a full, wholly owned subsidiary office,
Or you handed the keys over to a traditional distributor.
Transparent local presence offers a third path. You still deploy local professionals on the ground.
You still benefit from native speakers who deeply understand the culture and can build real face-to-face relationships over dinner.
But the crucial distinction lies in the structural mechanics. They are performing these duties entirely on behalf of the manufacturer, not instead of them.
Let's break down the mechanics of how that actually works, because we just established that simply sharing software isn't enough.
Right?
How does this model guarantee that the data flows back raw and unfiltered?
In a transparent local presence setup, the operational structure changes completely. The local agent is operating as a direct extension of the manufacturer's team.
So they carry a business card with the manufacturer's logo.
They communicate using the manufacturer's corporate email domain. Most importantly, when a deal reaches the finish line, the end user signs a contract directly with the manufacturer.
And the manufacturer issues the invoice.
Exactly. There is no reseller layer buying the product at a discount and flipping it to the end user.
Oh, wow. Because the manufacturer owns the financial transaction, they legally own the customer relationship, the pipeline data, and the pricing history.
That structural shift changes everything. The agent isn't a wall between the brand and the market.
They are a transparent window.
The pricing logic becomes entirely visible. The manufacturer knows exactly why a 5% discount was offered because their own internal team had to approve it based on raw feedback from the field.
The market data flows back to headquarters completely unfiltered. The product development team in Chicago can hear the actual unvarnished objections from the factory floor in Stuttgart.
And perhaps most importantly, this structure eliminates the toxic, misaligned incentive we discussed earlier.
Right, because in a transparent model, the local agent is compensated based on growing the manufacturer's direct footprint.
Their success does not trigger a fear of being replaced because they are already integrated into the manufacturer's ecosystem.
So what does this all mean? I mean, at the end of the day, moving away from traditional distributors isn't about fostering distrust.
No, not at all.
It isn't about assuming local partners are inherently deceptive.
It is about designing a business architecture where trust simply doesn't require blindness. It forces a company to stop the dangerous habit of operational self-deception.
Yeah.
When a company uses a traditional distributor, it is remarkably easy to outsource accountability.
If regional sales drop 15%, Leadership blames the distributor's lack of focus.
If pricing collapses, they blame intense local pressure.
If competitors start winning market share, they blame tough macroeconomic
That
conditions.
you cannot make those comfortable excuses when you have a transparent presence. Accountability stays exactly where it belongs.
With the manufacturer's leadership team.
Exactly. If a specific international market matters to your overall growth strategy, then understanding that market deeply must matter.
If understanding it matters, then having true, uncurated visibility matters.
And if visibility matters, then settling for the structural opacity of a traditional distributor is no longer a tolerable operational trade-off.
It becomes a massive strategic liability.
It is the stark difference between genuinely building a durable global footprint and simply tricking yourself into thinking you have one because the monthly revenue reports look acceptable.
Which brings us to a brilliant, highly uncomfortable ultimate test posed by the source material. Every single manufacturer currently relying on a network of global distributors needs to pause and ask themselves this question today.
If your primary international distributor disappeared tomorrow, what would you actually know?
Right. Not what you could eventually recover by hiring expensive local consultants. Not what you might be able to piece together over 6 chaotic months of forensic accounting.
What do you actually know right now, today?
Do you know the names and cell phone numbers of your top 20 end users?
Do you know the specific technical reasons they prefer your product over the local alternative?
Do you know exactly what your competitors are doing on the ground in that region?
If the honest answer to those questions makes a leadership team uncomfortable, that discomfort is a glaring warning sign.
It is exposing the extreme fragility of their international business. True global growth should never require a company to wear a blindfold.
Absolutely not.
That is a phenomenal reality check for anyone managing international operations.
Yeah.
And it leaves you, the listener, with one final thing to mull over as we wrap up this deep dive. We have spent our time today dissecting the structural opacity trap within international distribution.
Right.
But think about how this dynamic applies far beyond global sales. Look at the architecture of your own daily operations. Where else in your business or even your personal life are you mistaking a beautifully polished summary for the actual truth?
It's a tough question to ask.
Where else have you outsourced the execution of something deeply important to a so-called expert, only to realize later that you have accidentally handed over your executive power, your strategic judgment, and your access to the raw data?
Because whether you are dealing with a personal fitness coach, a wealth manager handling your investments, or an international distributor managing your European expansion, the moment you stop owning the raw data, you stop owning the results. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.